So after further review with Dave here, I can shed some light. Again, I hate to leave anybody hanging with answers to questions, but if after you go to a doctor, if the doctor, well, it doesn't matter if the doctor is helpful to you or not, in the sense that
if they want to do
following
it,
facts are still facts, okay? Right. Are there safer anabolics than others, safer ways of doing testosterone replacement therapy than others? I won't review the basics of testosterone replacement therapy because I think we've gone through that many a time. But are there anabolics that are safer than others? That's been something of debate for a long time. There are definitely those that are safer than others in a general sense and also a specific sense. For someone who has prostate cancer, which would be sensitive to dihydrotestosterone, you might not want to use a DHT derivative. It doesn't necessarily mean that just because it's a derivative that it will activate a receptor just like DHT will, but who wants to roll the dice? And we don't have a whole lot of studies on that sort of thing. There are some books out there on how to fight cancer with certain steroids. So there's some, but just not a whole lot. But in general, there are a lot of DHT derivatives that are safer. Why? Because they don't convert to estrogen, okay? And we've talked about this before where just because say you have a baseline and you add something that doesn't convert, doesn't mean that, you don't have to worry about any extra conversion to estrogen, right? We talked about how they're both going to the same receptor and you're going to displace some of the testosterone which can convert. So yeah, you do have to consider upping your estrogen protection, even though you're introducing something which doesn't convert. But in general, obviously, the DHT derivatives, Anavar, Primobolan, Winstrol, those are safer. They're considered cleaner, meaning they have fewer androgenic side effects, the ones you don't want. You don't want hair in the ears like Grandpa had. Mm-hmm. Most people who are using these want the energy and the anabolic, meaning muscle building factors out of them without any other nasty side effects. One of the main ones for guys is conversion to estrogen. So safer would be something like that, as opposed to, say, Dianabol.
Anadrol.
Dianabol can convert. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad steroid. I mean, there are guys that, prior to 1976 when it was legal, that set. I mean, one of my heroes is Al Order. He was an amazing four separate Olympic gold medalist, okay, who made it public record that he took anabolics because they were legal. It wasn't illegal. It wasn't an issue. And clearly he benefited from the use of Dianabol, but it probably wasn't the best choice in terms of safety, just because of the conversion, things we didn't know about back then. Right. So I'm not saying anything but good things about Al Order, the champion, but now we know better. So there are some safer choices. Dianabol also, by the way, this was a French person, but here in the U.S. is considered contraband. It's not legal here, so it's a problem. That's another. I'm just addressing the issue of safety. Oxandrolone, which is Anavar brand, or I don't think GD Stroll makes it anymore, but anyway, we refer to it as Anavar. That's legal. Primobolan's not. Winstrol is. So Equipoise is for horses, not for humans, so not legal for horses. I'm just naming some steroids that are out there. What's another one? The Masteron is one that's out there a lot. That's not legal either. Turinabol, not it's a derivative of Dianabol, not legal. So that, in terms of safety, you got to think of too. It's not addressing the medical part of it, but in general, those that are weaker androgens and stronger anabolic steroids are safer.
It sounds to me like that's what he's after, because he talks about staying lean and doesn't want to put that much weight on and stuff. So I think he
doesn't want to get bloated, doesn't want to get acne or
aesthetics.
Hair in the wrong places on your ears, like I said, or on your back, stuff like that. So I hope that gives him a better answer than just go see your doctor. That was the attempt, anyway.
That's why I'm sending you a question. You are a doctor. All right, thanks, Doc. Okay, so hey, Dr. Rand, my name is Alex, and I'm 23 years old with very low testosterone. I'm still in the process of dealing with doctors and getting blood work done. However, my endocrinologist tells me it's not a big concern, and he doesn't recommend treatment at this time. Personally, I feel like shit. My quality of life is literally crap to what I'm used to. I understand there would be an underlying health problem which I'm willing to test for before starting any HRT. This whole process is just taking entirely too long with doctors and playing the waiting game. I'm going to be 24 in October, which is now, and I'm only getting older. Oh my God, I wish I was getting older at 24. I know that sounds ignorant, but what is the point of being young if you can't even do things that makes you happy? I love this guy.
Well, he does have a good point.
Right? Basically, I just want to hear your opinion on my situation because there's been no one that really seems to care or anyone knowledgeable enough to have a meaningful conversation with. I understand I don't have my blood level listed or I have any or have a time frame of blood work and stuff. I would just be happy for you to inform me on any things that could help me. Thank you, Alex.
I can say first of all, and I'm not a curmudgeon, but as I get older, I'm not as politically correct as I used to be. Find a new doctor. One of my pet peeves. Obviously, I sit on the other side of the desk too. You know, I'm a patient. It's happened to me with some of the so-called best doctors in town, where they look at you and say, "There's nothing wrong with you." There's nothing. There are few things that chap my rear end more than that, because I showed up here for an appointment because. What, I wanted to talk about the weather and ask how the kids are doing? No, because I don't feel well. So who are you to tell me there's nothing wrong? And I know that can be misconstrued, but I mean, it sounds like you're getting there's nothing wrong in the wrong sense of, you know, instead of saying, oh, we can't find anything that leads to your symptoms. I mean, I've heard doctors tell me, despite my symptoms, and I've stopped and said, well, how come my knees hurt so badly then? And they tell me, well, it's normal, or there's nothing wrong with you. I mean, that's just obviously horrible. So first thing is I'd find a new doctor. But in all seriousness, and I am serious about that, but more so, I guess, at 23, it's not normal, as you know, to feel, as you know, like crap. Okay, yeah, you should have high levels of testosterone. The fact that you have substantiated low levels is a problem. That's not normal. Certainly it's not optimum, but even at 23, or to have it at 23 is a problem. So the first thing I would rule out is it's called, it sounds scary, but it's a pituitary microadenoma, which is typically non-cancerous, it's benign. It's just a little growth on the pituitary, which is about that big of a stalk, right above the roof of your mouth, below the brain. And that's the master gland for all the hormones. Sometimes you get a little growth on that, and it can affect the body's release of something called luteinizing hormone to the testicles, tell them to function. So you might have secondary hypogonadism, secondary to this little tumor. That's a simple MRI, should be 20 minutes in a tube. That's the not so fun part, but that would be my first step, because again, that's not normal. Then you can also look at some of your other hormones, because the pituitary has a pecking order, if you will, of hormones that are produced. Typically with a microadenoma, you've got other hormones, because it's on the pituitary, that also aren't being produced normally, because it's being affected. You know, the pituitary doesn't just affect the one spot in the pituitary that produces luteinizing hormone. It protects, it impacts the area of the pituitary that might effectuate release of growth hormone or thyroid hormone. So normally you see others that are out of whack as well. Again, this is total swag, because you know, and he acknowledges this is a very general question.
Yeah.
But let's rule out secondary sources, and then, you know, the first thing I would consider using, if assuming that well, we may find this positive for a tumor, but you say, well, I'm not getting a surgery. I'm not having anybody cut me open to get that out or anything like that. Well, the first thing I would consider is then not replacement therapy, but something that bypasses that mechanism. It's called human chorionic gonadotropin, or HCG for short, that mimics the signal of luteinizing hormone, so that you can get your normally functioning testicles to work. Because again, they may be just fine. They're not the source of the problem. And typically, that would be my first guess. It would be anyone's first guess. Your testicles are fine. They're just not getting a signal.
Yeah.
And that could be from stress, all kinds of things. A tumor would be a certain stressor, right?
Yeah.
But at 23, I mean, even stress, you know, what we live in, just waking up in the 21st century, shouldn't be enough to override Mother Nature. So, yeah, first thing I look at is this tumor, and I would consider HCG as an alternative to replacement therapy, so you can preserve testicular function, preserve size, and probably most importantly, preserve fertility, because you're 20, coming up on 24 here.
Yeah, 24.
Yeah. Other than that, you got to pursue it with the doctors. You don't have to do anything, but that's where I would go. I would just find one who's
Or open
not telling you nothing's wrong, because that's just stupid. I'm sorry. But obviously you're a little impatient with what's going on, so I don't know how long it's taken them to get around to this, but a requisition for an MRI takes about 3 minutes to write, and an MRI, as I said, takes about 20 minutes. This should be something that's done within a week's time.
Yeah.
And that'll rule some of these things out right away. You can test your testicular function by using HCG, which would be the treatment as well as a helpful diagnoser, because if you got results from it, you'd say, oh, great. Now, just to be a little bit more specific, I know I'm not treating you, but don't forget that with HCG, you're producing more of your own testosterone. It's not replacement therapy, but you also have to watch for conversion into excess estrogen. Yeah. So remember to include some, in my case, I recommend an AI like an Anastrozole.
Yeah. Thanks, Doc.